On today's show, it's game day for the Ottawa Senators. We'll preview tonight's matchup against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden.
And we're joined by New York-based NHL content creator Jonny Lazarus for a deeper look into the Rangers.
Let's get into that and more on today's Locked On Sens.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter and LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. You can find us free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Friday, November 1st, and Pilsy, I'm going to snap the November curse with this sentence. The last time the Senators played on a Friday night at Madison Square Garden was the Jacob Trouba Brady Tkachuk fight at center ice. Brady Tkachuk ties it. Brady Tkachuk wins it. I'm calling a big night for the captain to get November started on the right foot.
I love it, Ross. We got to do whatever we can to get those bad November vibes out of the way. November 1st. Let's start the month off with a great win here. And that's a good call, being locked on to the captain, Ross. I'm sure we'll get into that later on.
We will. Happy birthday, Mom. Send her flowers. We're making sure November's feeling good to a good start. So it's a 7 o'clock puck drop at Madison Square Garden tonight. Always a fun place to watch a game. I've gotten to see the Sens there twice. It is bucket list stuff. So if you're going to the game, send us your boots on the ground. I want to see that beautiful roof. And hopefully you Sens fans can bring that roof down tonight. And hopefully the Senators give you lots of reasons to do that. Pillsy, practice yesterday. Seems like they're running back the exact same lineup as they did against the Blues.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I wouldn't have changed a thing, honestly. I think we've really taken a good hard look at Hamonic being on that top pair with Sanderson, but then you start mixing around the rest of that decor and you realize the pairs of Chabot and Jensen, I want to keep those two together. I think they've found chemistry, which for Tom Chabot, it's great to finally find someone that works with him. So why would you mix that up? And then Clevin and JBD, the Nodak Sens pair, I think you want to keep them both on a bottom pair role. So I guess that leaves you with no choice but to have Hamonic up top with Sandy.
Now, Travis Green did say after practice yesterday that he's been very impressed with Clevin's puck moving ability. So hopefully he can continue to build on that. But I'm right with you. It's in a lower role in the lineup. And obviously you want to keep the lefty-righty split. So you're going to keep that left side, Sanderson, Chabot, and Clevin. We should say, though, Thomas Chabot is coming off his best performance of the season. He was awesome in that game against the St. Louis Blues. Not only the great assist on Tim Stützle's second goal, but just both ends of the ice. He was floating out there. You just hope that he can string together a great month of November. The Sens lines expected for tonight at MSG. Tim Stützle between Brady Tkachuk and Ridley Gregg. Josh Norris centering Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson. Zach Ostapchuk between Noah Gregor and Michael Amadio. And the fourth line, Adam the Hockey God, Gaudette, between Nick Cousins and Zach McEwen. On the back end, Jake Sanderson with Travis Hamonic, Thomas Chabot, Nick Jensen, Clevin, JBD, Linus Ullmark, and Anton Forsberg. Lots of questions among the fan base right now at the time of this recording of who do you start in which game. Pilsy, what's your answer? Because it is a back-to-back. The Senators at home to Seattle on Saturday.
Easy answer for me, Ross. Ullmark coming off a great game, my guy, number 35. Keep them in there. I think you want to be looking at the schedule and you want to be beating the Eastern Conference teams. So give your team the best chance to win tonight's game up against the New York Rangers on the road. I think Ullmark does that for you. And then the Seattle Kraken, obviously not as good a team as the Rangers, and you get the comfort of playing them at home. And Ross, you mentioned to me before we started recording that Forsberg has recently had a shutout against the Seattle Kraken last season. So it seems like maybe he has their number. At least he's got some success up against them. Although, Ross, we don't want to go full Jacques Martin and just play our goalies based off how they've played other teams in the past. But it is a small thing you can look at there.
It wasn't just a shutout, Pills. He was a 39 save shutout. He was awesome in that game. So, yes, we are in agreement there. I should note, though, that Linus Ullmark is 5-2-1 all time against the New York Rangers, a 902 save percentage, probably not as high as he's got against other teams, but it's going to be a tough test. And against what I would imagine would be Igor Shesterkin in goal for the New York Rangers, like, don't you want your best up against their best? And I think we should see Linus Ullmark in goal tonight. Pilsy, who is your locked on player to watch?
My locked on player to watch, Ross, we already teased a little bit at the start, so it's not going to be too much of a surprise. It's number 7, captain Brady Tkachuk. I mean, this guy's having a good season so far. 9 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. How are you? And he likes playing up against the Rangers, and obviously he had that big night in Madison Square Garden, the tying goal, the winning goal, and most notably, in my opinion, that center ice fight up against Trouba, captain on captain at Madison Square Garden. It doesn't get better than that. So I'm hoping Brady can have a little bit of that magic that he's had in New York City, and I'm going to be locked on to number 7, Ross.
And for good reason. I mean, you mentioned it. He's done great against them in his career, and in an interview this summer with the Missing Curfew guys, he also said that this is the rink that he loves to play at the most in the National Hockey League. If you're watching on YouTube, just pulled up the photo. Shout out to USA Today. That's a great freeze frame from that fight. Captain on captain at center ice on a Friday night in the most electric city in North America. So it is just a great time for Brady Tkachuk to continue what he's been doing, which is putting up a ton of points, right? You mentioned that he's off to a great offensive start, 13 points in 9 games, but that two-goal game against St. Louis is now his second multi-point game in a row. Had 3 points against the Colorado Avalanche, so 5 points in the last 2 games for Brady Tkachuk. A great choice for locked on player.
I don't think I actually mentioned it, Ross, so I'll mention his stats. In 15 games in his career up against the Rangers, 8 goals, 8 assists, good for 16 points. So above a point per game up against the Rangers.
That's awesome. A great reason to lock on to Brady Tkachuk tonight. I'm going to go with someone who Jonny Lazarus is going to mention. I think it was actually off air with us after. Drake Batherson.
Okay.
Drake Batherson, to me, is the straw that stirs the drink here in the top 6. And I know you can say Giroux's been awesome. He has, for sure. But what we're seeing out of Drake Batherson, to me, is the start of point per game Drake, which I called last year. But I'm gonna squat on that take for this year, too. He's on a 5-game point streak. 3 of those 5 games, multi-point games, Pilsy. So he is completely at the top of his game. 10 points in Drake Batherson's last 5 games. So he's a guy who I'm going to be locked on to, and hopefully he can go up against the Mika Zibanejad line, and Ottawa can take it to them after that top line. We know the Panarin line with Trocheck and Lafreniere. That's a good hockey line, and I think that you're going to probably match up Tim Stützle with that if you even get the chance on the road. But otherwise, I think that that's where the Rangers and all these teams that pay multiple guys double digits, you're going to have a little bit of depth issue, and that's where hopefully Ottawa can exploit that. So I'm looking for Drake Batherson to be front and center in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, Drake Batherson deserves some love for sure. I feel like he kind of gets overshadowed by the big names, the Timmys, the Bradys, the Sandersons, the Allmarks, things like that. So it deserves to be mentioned that he's doing exactly what the Ottawa Senators want from him right now. And he's a big reason why that Giroux, Norris, Batherson line has been so successful.
8 points in 10 games against the Rangers in the career of Drake Batherson. On the other side, some keys to victory tonight for the Ottawa Senators, beating one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. How can they do it? We'll discuss next. Then Jonny Lazarus will join us later on in the show. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. If you guys are thinking about going to the game tonight in Madison Square Garden, at Madison Square Garden, you can find tickets on the Gametime app. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all that fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you're not wasting time searching through thousands of tickets. Check out the all-in pricing. Make sure to turn the feature on, and they're going to tell you the total price right up front. No surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat. Ross, if you do want to see the roof of Madison Square Garden, but you can't go, just turn on the Gametime app and you can look around and check it out for yourself, because they show you what your seat looks like before you buy. Lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Make sure to check out FanDuel like I am right now, where the Ottawa Senators are plus 150 right now on FanDuel to win tonight. And if you want to get crazy, you want to have some fun, how about Brady Tkachuk anytime goal score at plus 180, or Drake Batherson at plus 250? How about Tyler Kleven's first goal? He was ripping it in the third period against St. Louis, plus 1,900, the longest odds of any player to score in this game. You want to have fun? Do it responsibly. Do it at FanDuel. It is America's #1 sportsbook, and because you're a new customer and you listen to Locked On Sens, you can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. So get started with that $150 in bonus bets by winning your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators. 7 o'clock puck drop at MSG. The New York Rangers come into this game losers of 2 of 3, but they are still 6-2-1 through 9 games this season. They've got a plus 16 goal differential. They've scored 37 and only allowed 21. That's the second fewest in the Eastern Conference, behind the Carolina Hurricanes, who have played 1 less game. What is a key to victory to you for the Ottawa Senators tonight?
Oh boy, Ross, this is one of those games where
not a must win.
Not a must win, no. And finding a key to victory, I have a typical routine I like to go through. First, I check power plays. So let's get to that. The New York Rangers, they've got a good power play. They're 6th in the league, clicking at a 25.9% chance or success rate. The Ottawa Senators, much better power play at 42.9%. But then you flip that special teams over, and this is where the New York Rangers are a scary team, because they're 3rd in the league in penalty kill percentage at 89.7%, where the Ottawa Senators are much low. So I'm going to take a page out of Coach Green's book here, Ross. The Senators need to find ways to score 5-on-5 more, because they've been feasting on the power play, and even up against teams with decent penalty kills, they've still been able to crack through with their power play. I do not anticipate the Ottawa Senators are going to be able to do that tonight. You're going to hear Jonny Lazarus, says that the Rangers have been doing a really good job of sparking offensive opportunities when they're penalty killing. And that scares me for an Ottawa power play unit that can sometimes be a little risky and at the line can fumble the puck. And then you've got those Rangers players off to the races. So long story short, Ross, the power play cannot be what gets you the win tonight. You got to find a way to grind it out 5-on-5.
I'll take goals at any situation, though. The Ottawa Senators actually averaging the 3rd most goals in the league this year. The Rangers are 4th. So we've got 2 high-scoring teams coming into this one. The only difference is that Ottawa is 9th worst in goals against, and the Rangers are 2nd best. So get to Igor Shesterkin if he is in goal. Otherwise, Jonathan Quick, who's actually, I know some people are like, oh, he's still in the league. he's actually had a real big, nice resurgence with the Rangers. He's got a .953 save percentage this year, and that's after putting up a .911 save percentage last year. But Igor is also back to his Shesterkin level, where he last year struggled at times, still finished with a .912, but where he was at previously, that is a little disappointing. This year, though, .923 save percentage, 4-2-1 record. I'm going to be looking out as well for Igor Shesterkin in this game, but also Mika Zibanejad. Of course, we'll get to it as well. But with Mika, it seems like he's a bit of a whipping boy right now in New York, and he has exactly 0. Same amount of power play goals as Zach McEwen for Mika Zibanejad, and name any other Senator who's not on the power play, because that has been his bread and butter. And I know the bread man helps out with the butter, but he needs to get going, whether it's the power play or at even strength. And he's over a point per game in his career against Ottawa. So I'm a little nervous that we could see a big game from Mika Zibanejad tonight.
As is tradition, Ross mentioned he's going to be locked on to Igor Shesterkin, so it'll be a Jonathan Quick start.
Well, if they want to call up their goalie from the minors, I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, either one of those guys is not a great opponent to see in the crease, as Ross mentioned, both of them having success this year. But yeah, Mika Zibanejad, it's very surprising that he's having a bit of a downfall here. But I might mind you, it's not like he's fallen off a cliff. He's still got 7 points in 9 games, so it's not drastic. But for a guy that they rely on to be their number one centerman and kind of have a big part in this team's success, he hasn't been as good as he's used to being and where the Rangers need him to be if they're going to keep going forward like this.
We can't do a Rangers preview without saying, though, that Artemi Panarin is always a guy you have to be aware of, much like Nikita Kucherov. To me, those two are two
Very
peas
similar.
in a pod, right? Where wherever they are on the ice, they are in a scoring position.
Yeah, he's dangerous for sure. And he's having a great year too. 9 games, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points, +3. So yeah, that's pretty good. But Ross, I've got a locked on player, or a lookout player, sorry. Chris Kreider. This guy loves scoring goals, and that's all he's been doing this season. 9 games, 6 goals, no assists for Chris Kreider.
Well, he's been playing with Mika the whole year.
Yeah, that will be an issue, but he's shooting at a 24% clip, and he's someone that, even though he hasn't necessarily dominated the Sens in his career, I've got his splits right here. He's someone that I feel like people just underestimate his speed, and he kind of got a reputation deservedly for running goalies. So he's someone that if you're defending, you really have to use your edges and you have to be strong when he's driving down the wing. Don't let him cut in towards the middle of the ice. You have to find a way to keep him wide. But Ross, even if you find a way to keep him wide, mind you, Korpisalo's not in net for the Sens anymore, thank goodness. But he can rip the pill pretty good from far out. So even if you keep him wide, he's still a scoring threat. So Chris Kreider, I'm looking out for him.
Okay, tonight's game is at 7 o'clock. We will have the postcast for you after the game. Excited to start a back-to-back for the Ottawa Senators. It's nice coming off a big win, having 2 days off. And with the injured players, still no update on David Perron, who's away with the team for personal reasons. Shane Pinto's undisclosed injury, and Artem Zub is skating alone, but not rejoining the team yet from that concussion. So that's nice to have the extra day, because that gives these guys an extra day to get healthy. But it's going to be fun to have Sens back-to-back. Is it their first back-to-back of the season, Pilsy?
Well, I'm very sure we were not boots on the ground for the first back-to-back of the year. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and say this is their first back-to-back. I'm very confident in that, actually.
Can confirm. And a little callback to last year's LOSP. All right, let's get to a new friend of the show, Jonny Lazarus. Great follow on Twitter, JLazzy23. Let's get to it right now. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Phil, Pilsy, we now welcome on a very special guest from the heart of Manhattan, helping us preview the New York Rangers, Ottawa Senators till tonight. It's Jonny Lazarus. Man, what does this guy not do? You can find him on Morning Cup of Hockey on the Daily Faceoff Show, does content for the Bleacher Report and the NHL. Welcome to the show, Jonny. Long time.
You guys, honestly. I wanted this invite way sooner than I got it. I'm just messing with you. I love your guys' stuff. Obviously everyone knows diehard Sens fan. Risked my life last year, a year early. Now everyone's on board with it. But Ross, Pilsy, great to be on with you guys.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it right off the bat. I thought you were
I hope
dead
I can
man
curse, by the
walking.
way.
No, I'm just gonna block it out. It's all good. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Really? Yeah. Oh, big time. It's all good. That's what the show's all about. Just hey, guys being dudes. So hey, we appreciate you for living through that. We appreciate you for riding with the Sens, and we do see the odd quote tweet. Hey, Shane Pinto did this because you guys go way back, don't you?
Not like way back. I was in college, I think, when I first met Shane. He's I think he's a 2001 birth year, so he's 5 years younger than me. But in our summer skates in Long Island, once Shane started playing USHL and junior, he just kind of joined our I guess 18 and up college skate that we did in the summers. Pretty good players out there, but yeah, I remember talking to Shane, I was giving him advice and it's kind of crazy just looking at it. This kid was drafted, I was nothing, but yeah, he's the best. And honestly, I know it's catching on now, but in my opinion, top 5 most underrated NHL personality.
So with that, we just had Kyle Bukauskas on, and I know you were at the NHL media events as well in Vegas, and it sounds like he made quite the impression on all the staff there. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah. So Kyle and Sportsnet were in a different location than we were. So there's 2 different rinks at Player Media Tour. We were with ESPN and TNT, and I think Sportsnet was at a different location because Colby was doing his couch talk also. So I didn't get to see Kyle in Vegas, but Shane, trying to think who else was Mario Ferraro was another good friend of mine. He was there last year. He wasn't there this year, but he's another guy that everyone didn't really know that well that fell in love with. But I think, Shane's personality is just guy laughs at everything. And how could you not love a kid that just is always smiling like that?
Yeah, we always talk about it. Was he the same kind of lovable goofball back when you met him as well?
I don't remember him being that way, just because I think, at the time he was a younger guy with us. We were all 96, 97, 95 birth years skating. And he was, like I said, in 01. So I think, maybe a little bit, I remember him being a little bit more quieter. But over the last 2 years, the reason we've gotten tighter is because we have a mutual best friend, Sam Sternshine, who plays in Idaho right now in the ECHL. He played at Penn State and Boston College, and those 2 are super tight. But Sam's 2 years younger than I am, so we never really hung out that much outside the rink till recently. And now our lives have just kind of intermingled, and I've seen Shane more just because of hanging out with Sam and stuff. So we've really gotten to know each other personally over the last 2 years.
Yeah, well, Sens fans know his game now, and it's awesome to see kind of the steps he's taking. Unfortunately, he won't be in the lineup tonight, nursing an injury week to week, undisclosed, not sure what's going on, but we do know that what's going on with the New York Rangers. You get to see them boots on the ground. What can Sens fans expect to see on the other side tonight?
Shane might be milking the injury, though, to just go to the Jets game tonight. I know he's a huge Jets fan, so they play the Texans tonight. Maybe he's milking it a little bit. I might have to chirp him for that one. But what was the question again? I forgot.
Oh, just what's the Rangers looking like right now?
Well, they're coming off a really ugly loss in Washington. The Caps dominated them, and credit to Washington because I was not very high on them going into this year, and they've proven a lot of people wrong thus far. Obviously made some good additions in the offseason, like Matt Roy and Jacob Chikrin on the back end. PLDs look pretty good. Logan Thompson had a solid game in net. But, the Rangers right now are in this weird window where, sure, they've looked dominant, but I don't think they've played the best of competition thus far. And that's something I said last week on our show. While it's great that they're beating up on the bad teams, they got a win against Toronto, which was good, but at home against Florida, huge stinker, and on the road against Washington, huge stinker. These are not good. These are not good signs, right? So, while I'm happy that the third line and Igor for the most part are playing great, you still want to see more from former Sen, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, and then Riley Smith's been okay, new addition, but this team still has a lot to prove, I think.
Well, I made sure to highlight Alexi Lafreniere. I know you've been super high on him over the course of the last couple of years. We were super high on him in the draft year, right? Ottawa had that chance at getting 2 lottery picks. They end up with Stutz and Sanderson. That worked out just fine. But seems like it's still working out well for the New York Rangers, despite maybe a bit of a slower start. He's really caught his rhythm in the last while, hey?
Yeah, but I also think, there's a lot to be argued about this. Because I remember like 3 years ago when Stützle was tearing, he still tears it up, but like when he, originally had that breakout year, I think it was 22, 23, like Stützle's first big year.
Yeah,
People
it
were
was
saying like
39 goals.
Yeah, like and we were all saying you put Lafreniere in Stützle's position, he could arguably be putting up the same amount of points. Like that year, Lafreniere is playing third line, barely touching the power play, and that's not what you typically see from a first overall pick, right? They're thrown into a situation in a rebuilding team that doesn't necessarily look to win every night. They're just trying to develop their young talent. Where the situation he was put in, the Rangers were essentially on the end of a rebuild or retool, if you want to call it that. And the people in his position were veteran guys like Panarin and Kreider. So like, it's really tough to win a spot over those two. And again, these are all like hypotheticals, right? Like I could say Lafreniere gets drafted by Ottawa, puts up like, you can't prove it. So I can say whatever the hell I want basically. But you know what I mean? Like Frank Petrano said it last week. I spoke to Frank when Anaheim was in town and said like, this guy earned his new contract the right way. Like he did things that not everyone's willing to do, like play third line minutes, throw the body, like really hone in on that role and not try to do too much for a guy who, has that skill set and has that ability to do so. And, when the opportunity then comes, a new coaching staff comes in and Peter Laviolette puts him with Artemi Panarin, he flourishes. So, as you guys know, a lot of hockey is very situational. And, guys that are put into situations that might not fit them best don't always do the best. Sometimes a change of scenery, they can thrive in. So, it's a weird sport. And, Alexis Lafreniere has finally kind of found his footing and love the kid.
So that's a guy the Rangers have locked up recently. And there's a lot of other players looking for contracts, including Igor Shesterkin, who famously turned down a big contract offer. Is this a bit of a distraction for this Rangers squad?
I don't think so. I know it's a talking point amongst fans as well, but I really think the focus right now is on this year. Like the Rangers aren't concerned about their next 2 to 3 years, right? They're really focused on winning this season. And that's why I don't think it's a distraction right now. That said, come deadline time, it'll probably be a huge distraction. But I really think this group and what they've been through and what they've built over the last 2-3 years, and maybe even the GM and the coaches, because Laviolette was brought in here to win now. Chris Drury is, I think going on year 3 and or year 4 maybe. I don't know why I'm blanking on that right now, but his job is to win right now. And I think that's really the concern. So if you ask the players in the room, obviously they'd feel more comfortable with him locked up long term, but I don't think it's a distraction because this team is just trying to win the next game.
Igor Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick, the two goalies for the New York Rangers. On defense, we expect it to be Keandre Miller with Adam Fox. We've got Lindgren and Trouba there, Ryan Lindgren, Jacob Trouba, and then Braden Schneider with Mancini on the bottom pair. Up front, we mentioned Lafreniere playing top line right wing with Vinny Trocheck and Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad with Chris Kreider and Riley Smith. Philip Hedl is centering Will Cooley and Capo Caco. Then you got Sam Carrick with Edstrom and Rempe on either side there. If there's one player you're keying in on the Rangers tonight, Johnny, who's it going to be?
This might come as a surprise, but I think he's been playing unbelievable. And, honestly, I think the points should be more than what they are, but it's Philip Hedl. And he's got 7 points in 9 games right now, 4 goals, 3 assists, but has been absolutely, I'm hesitant to say lights out, but it seems like he's getting 4 to 5 grade A chances a night. The finishing isn't necessarily where everyone wants it to be, but the fact that he's generating those chances, and as we say in hockey, throwing good shit on the pile, you can bleep that curse out too, my bad. That's something that this third line has really grown to, I'm trying to think of the right word, or I guess take pride in. Right now they're the only line that has not been scored on at 5-on-5, and that's Hedl, Kako, and Cooley. But we're seeing right now what the Rangers lacked last year. And in those last 3 games in that conference final against Florida, they lose all 3 games by 1 goal. And they only got 2 goals from their third line the entire playoffs. Like, no discredit to Alex Wenberg. He was a fine player. But I think had we had a healthy Philip Hedl, it would have elevated this team just a little bit more. So Philip Hedl would be the guy that I would hone in on tonight, for the Rangers, even though he's not like the sexiest name on this roster.
Where are Rangers fans at with Jacob Trouba? I feel like there's been ups and downs. Obviously, the contract, it's a big AAV for a defenseman on a defense core with lots of great young talent. So are Rangers fans happy with Trouba these days?
I think happy and unbothered would be, maybe unbothered's the more way to go. But in New York, I mean, in every sport, New York fans always have a whipping boy. It's just how it kind of works here. You love them when they're good and you hate them when they're not. And I think with everything going on around Mika Zibanejad in the early going of this season, that's just taken everything off of Trouba. Which, I don't know. If you ask Trouba, I don't think he'd be like happy about that, but it's just kind of how it goes. And, I've heard people say already, and we're 9 games in, that, for the last 2 years, it's always been like Trouba's contract's the worst on this team. Like, we got to find a way to trade him. Why did we sign him to $8 million? And it's quickly becoming Mika is the worst contract on this team. That's just the narrative that I'm seeing. I don't know if I necessarily believe it. Although, like, I will say, Mika Zibanejad right now has not impressed me at all. And in fact, like, he has looked disinterested, which is a problem. Like, it's your number one center making north of $8 million, and you can't have him not even looking engaged in a 50-50 battle. So I think for warranted reasons, the attention has been taken off of Trouba.
Well, this could be a get-right game for Mika Zibanejad, who has 20 points in 16 career games against the Ottawa Senators. He's really had a good time against his old team. And funny enough, Johnny, Pilsy and I's first ever conversation when we met was a month after that trade, and we met by saying, "Hey, man, that trade sucked, eh?"
That's funny.
So yeah. We're always keeping an eye on DJ Zbad, as he was affectionately known when he was spinning tracks up here in the market in Ottawa. But is it been that bad just this year, or is this kind of like a growing thought around the fan base that things haven't been going Mika's way?
Well, I think it started last year just with the 5-5 production. I think he only scored like 8 goals at 5-5 last year. And I believe 2 years ago he had 39 goals, like, 1 goal away from 40, which obviously is incredible in the NHL. Stützle numbers.
Some are saying.
But I think that's where it all started, was the lack of 5-5 production last year. And I think it's just kind of carried over into this year. But this year's a whole different story, because even on the power play, I'm telling you, the puck goes to Mika and the play almost dies. Like, I don't know what it is. And listen, guys go through stuff. I'm not saying he is or isn't, but I've known in my time that there are days where you just hate going to the rink. There are. It's human nature where you're not going to love hockey all the time. And, Zibanejad was a guy that, in years prior, smiling on the ice, like, looked like he loved being out there. And I just haven't seen that from him in the early going of this year. But again, like, always talks to the media and is more than cooperative, like the nicest guy. It's just the on ice intensity isn't really there right now. And I think he knows it and he's aware of it and he's accountable about it, but we haven't seen him necessarily try to fix it.
Johnny, final question for me. Would you like to make any guarantees of the Senators making the playoffs this year?
Did we make a bet? We made a bet, I think. Did we not? You and I?
Yeah, we did.
We did, right? What did we bet?
I believe it was $100 Wings or Senators who finishes higher.
Shit, really?
Yeah, I'm scrolling up right here.
It's not looking too hot because the Wings look terrible.
Yeah, the Jets beat them up last night.
Yeah.
Yep. I said I almost want to throw down a bet with you that Ottawa finishes higher than Detroit, but I'm not going to because I don't want you cheering against us. And then you said I'd love.
I'm still not cheering against you guys though. Anyway,
you said I'll still cheer for you. You said,
yeah,
it's a done deal.
Good
so
guy,
we got
Johnny.
it on there.
Yeah. Well, listen, I believe it or not, like, I have a few friends like from Ottawa, like from college and stuff that, and I've been to, I forgot what it's called now. Is it Scotiabank?
Canadian Tire Center.
It was probably Scotiabank when you were there.
Yeah, I went back in like 2009. I played in the Bell Cup, which is like right around there.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
Ottawa was my introduction to the World Junior. I had never heard of the World Juniors till I played in Ottawa. Cool. And we went to see a USA game. We saw John Tavares and Team Canada play that year, which was sick.
That was the Eberle year where he scored the goal in the semis against Russia.
Yep, against Russia. 5 seconds left, little backhand shelf.
So sick.
So I've always like kind of loved Ottawa, honestly, just because like that was such a new experience for me with hockey. And I've seen obviously what the fans are like in Ottawa. Like, I think back to, that Rangers 2016 series against the Sens. Like, obviously it didn't go our way, but that was still one of the coolest series like I've watched as a hockey fan. Like that Pajot 4-goal game.
It's absolutely sick.
It was awesome. So like, I think it's better for the league, and I know people say this all the time. It's better for the league when everyone's good, obviously, but it's better for the league when there's more good Canadian teams and Canadian markets like Ottawa that are relevant. And I'm trying to. I feel like there was one moment that stood out. What was it? I feel like I had one Ottawa memory that I wanted to bring up, but I'm kind of blanking on it right now.
Well, in the meantime, I'll say if the Sens make the playoffs, you're coming up for a playoff game.
I would love that. I would love that.
Direct flights on Porter, buddy. You can get there in 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, seriously. I would. Okay. Can we actually make that a thing if they make the playoffs? I'll rip a game with you guys. Will you buy? I'll pay for my flights. I'll pay for the hotel. Can you buy me a jersey?
A jersey, not even the ticket.
Yes, sir.
A jersey for sure. Hey. Well, I'll use the $100 that you give me when they finish higher than Detroit.
Done. Well, okay, done deal. If I'm buying a Sens jersey right now, which player should I be getting?
Well, I mean, it feels like you have to get Pinto.
Shane
or he's going to give
it
to you, right?
Pinto side. Yeah.
Pinto side. Oh, I mean, Linus Ullmark.
Like, pretend I'm a new hockey fan. Like who would I want to wear?
I mean, Brady Tkachuk's kind of the no-brainer. You have to have one. We both have a Brady Tkachuk jersey, Pills. You're like, what are you going on about?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at just like a fan, there's no one more exciting on the Ottawa Senators than Tim Stützle, though. Like that guy is so dynamic. The plays he's pulling off this year is,
and the umlaut looks sick too. It's like a nice little something different. Like if you pull that out at the ODR, you're gonna get a few eyeballs. So like, what's this?
I was hoping one of you would say this guy because I feel like he doesn't get enough love, and that's Drake Batherson. He's a stud. Like he doesn't get talked about nearly enough.
He does. That's probably why, because like we're banging the Drake Batherson drum too. We think he should get a look for Team Canada at the Four Nations. Like that's how high we are.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch for sure,
buddy. Give me the Nova Scotia line: Marchand, Crosby, Batherson. Let's go.
You know what's funny? Actually, I think McKinnon said it. Yeah, I did a lap with McKinnon, and he said Drake Batherson's like the best golfer like in the NHL.
Oh yeah, I took offense to that because they haven't made the playoffs in 5 years. 7.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't think he meant it as a jerk.
No, he doesn't. He's like
I didn't even think about it that way. That's funny though.
He's like a semi-pro. I heard that thing. McKinnon was saying he like shoots under par when they go out together.
Yeah, apparently he was crazy. Unreal. Yeah. So they golfed with Batherson and Pinto. It was like the four of them. It was McKinnon, Crosby, Batherson, Pinto. I think they golfed together.
Sick.
Yeah, pretty sick.
Yeah. Oh man, awesome. Well, hey, let's have you on again later this season, and we will see you in Ottawa in late April for the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Jonny Lazarus, everyone can go find him doing his content over at Daily Faceoff with the Morning Cup of Hockey. And you're all over the place, man. So wait, last question. Yeah. You're doing that skate and they're just coming out once every couple of weeks? Because obviously that was all recorded together, but I keep seeing new ones come out every once in a while.
So that's for BR Open Ice. So those are all used to basically promote which team's playing on TNT that night.
Cool.
So they usually come out on Wednesdays. Like yesterday's was Quinton Byfield because the Kings were on TNT last night.
Yeah.
So whenever I actually did one with Shane. So whenever the Sens play on TNT on Wednesday or whatever,
I'm sure we got lots of national games in the U.S.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you guys do. Do you guys have a TNT game? I hope you do. But Shane was also. It was. I mean,
one.
The skate with Shane was hilarious. Like you guys are gonna love it. Obviously.
I bet.
He's the best.
Yeah, I teed him up the first time that we had him on, and we always have this thing that he's better than Cole Caulfield because they're obviously 1-2 in Hobie voting and rival teams, all that. And I was like, "You guys ever like talk about that?" Blah blah blah. Teed him up. I was like, "Did you guys ever play on the same team together?" And I knew the answer. Yes. Well, World Juniors, right? Yes. Who won Best Forward on Team USA that tournament? And he goes, "Me." So walked him right into that one.
That's good. Yeah.
Oh man, no, we love that content, man. It's a ton of fun. It's great to see the players' personalities, and you do a great job of getting out of them. So thanks for all you do, and thanks for joining us today, Jonny. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for keeping me up to date on the Sens. Appreciate it. Go Sens, go.
All right, Pillsy, great to chat with Jonny Lazarus. Fun conversation. Any final thoughts as we head into the weekend?
Yeah, absolute beauty. Final thoughts for me is the Belleville Senators coming off a 3-2 shootout loss to the Providence Bruins will be playing this weekend, Saturday, November 2nd, up against the Syracuse Crunch. I'm still really intrigued by this Belleville Senators team, Ross. I don't know if you saw, but Jeremy Davies had a beauty goal in the most recent game, and they're a team that I still think is going to make some noise this season. So we're going to keep an eye on the Belleville Senators down in the AHL.
Well, they're doing a little bit of the New York Islanders method. They're 3-1-3 this season. 3 shootout losses and 3 wins in 7 games. The other a regulation loss. Great call there. We'll be following along that and tonight's game, where you can catch us live afterwards in the postcast. And if you miss it, no worries. You can get the replay on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll preview a little bit of the Seattle game at the end of the postcast tonight. Of course, we got a postcast for you on Saturday as well. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show. It really does mean a lot. Check out our interviews this week, from Graham Creech to Kyle Bukauskas to a great citizen. Everything in between. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. That's Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.